Well, hi and welcome. This is Kevin Leipzig, host of Contractor TV. This channel is focused on providing content designed to help contractors start, grow, and protect their construction business in California. We're sponsored by the Contractors Resource Center, where we specialize in providing affordable insurance for newly licensed contractors in California and California contractors with 2 to 50 employees. Today on Contractor TV, we're excited to have a frequent guest, which has been great, Carolyn Cromeans. Carolyn is a true jack of all trades. In addition to being the owner and managing partner of Cromeans Law Firm, Carolyn is also the co-founder of Morrell Masonry Supply and the owner of the Subcontractor Institute, which is an online educational platform for contractors. Carolyn is also the host of the educational construction podcast, Quit Getting Screwed. Love that name. And she has published 2 Amazon best-selling books, Quit Getting Screwed, Understanding and Negotiating the Subcontract, and Quit Getting Stiffed, a Texas Contractor's Guide to Lien and Collections. Good afternoon, Carolyn. I love that intro. Very, very comprehensive.
I try to be. I try to be for my clients as well. It's a whole picture when you're running a business. It's not just one thing, right?
Yes. You've got your hands in a lot of different important pots, all related to construction and construction law. So we appreciate you, on this series. We're putting a series together. If you're looking at this video today, we're going to talk about collections, but we're posting other videos on this channel about our next one we're going to be talking about is the importance and value of incorporating. We've also put together some great videos on key topics and issues that impact newly licensed contractors and existing contractors that are all construction law related. So if you like this type of content, please subscribe to the channel. We always welcome comments as well. So with that being said, let's jump in here. Let's talk a little bit about collections. Everybody wants to be paid, right? So let's talk a little bit about just for builders and contractors to even have a strategy. What would that look like to put a collection strategy in place?
So the main thing about a collection strategy is you need to have a plan in place before we even start working, which means before we even start expending people credit. We'll just have a plan in place just in case they don't pay. Here's what we're going to do at this date. Here's what we got to do at this date. Have everything in place so that you're not scrambling at the last minute to figure it out.
Right.
And I really think the collection issue starts with having a well-written contract so the owner knows when you expect payment, right? Especially on the residential side. The homeowners, you can have, a milestone payment term in your contract, but they don't know exactly when you've reached those milestones. So like, yes, I've reached this milestone and I'm going to send you an invoice and payments due in 5 days. So the first thing is that be clear about when we expect payments, right? Because I think that's a huge thing, especially on the residential side of when you want to get paid, is you got to tell them you want to be paid.
Right. And we've talked about that on previous recordings here on Contractor TV. I think one of the last videos we did was, the importance of having a contract just to begin with, right? So having that collection strategy clearly outlined in that contract is important as well. And in California, we've touched on this in the past as well, anything over $500 legally would require an agreement and a contract between that contractor and that homeowner. And it's just amazing how many don't have it. They'll just do a verbal agreement. And again, you've provided some great tips in the past. Even having an email outlining expectations is better than the contract, right? Have something written. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get paid. These are the benchmarks. So if you're interested in learning more about the importance of contracts and what to put in that's a previous episode we've done.
But the thing I think that is important is being in construction and collection strategy is what's called the mechanics lien. It's called mechanics material liens. In all 50 states call it something different, but the general idea is that the construction industry works on credit. So basically you, the contractor, are working and then waiting to get paid, whether that's on commercial or residential. That's generally the way it works. And so there's some risk involved, right?
Yeah.
You're waiting
Yeah.
to get paid. So you've basically given them credit by giving labor and material and waiting to get paid. And so that's just the way it is. You have a contract. That's what you call an unsecured debt. Kind of familiar with, like, if you have a credit card, you charge it up, they don't have any security backing that up. So that's an unsecured debt as well. What a lien does is it takes that unsecured debt and makes it secured with the property, because now you have a lien on the property that your labor and material went to. So now you have a security interest that backs up the money you're owed. So you go from being an unsecured debt to a secured debt. And actually, you still have both, because your unsecured claim is the breach of contract claim against whoever hired you because they didn't follow the contract and pay you. But now we also have the lien foreclosure case against whoever's property it is, whether that's who hired you or not. And so it's a really strong remedy to go from a unsecured debt to a secured debt. And that's why there's so many rules involved to have a valid lien. So as part of a consistent collection strategy, we work in what's required to have a lien. And that's different in all 50 states. California it's almost as complicated as Texas on what you have to do and when you have to send notice. And actually the first step is, if you're working with the owner, it's got to be in your contract. You have to have certain language that you can file a lien and that people that work for you can file a lien. So that definitely has to be in that contract, that residential contract as well.
What if it's not in the contract? What if the contract agreement between the contractor and the homeowner doesn't reference any lien language at all? Does that prevent the contractor from putting a lien on the property?
Yeah, it does. And here's the thing is that
Really?
even if you're not working directly for the owner, right? So if you're a subcontractor or material supplier, commercial or residential, you need to send a notice to the owner within 20 days of first work saying, hey, I'm here. I'm not owed any money yet, but I'm just letting you know that I'm here and that I could file a lien if I'm not paid. And what that tries to do is gives the owner a chance to make sure everybody downstream gets paid before he pays the person that he hired. And so it really tries to prevent liens ever being filed, these notices. And it's different in all states when the notices are required, but California requires one early, which we call it preliminary notice. Sorry. Some states call it a pre-lien notice. It's all different, but that is required.
Okay. Didn't quite catch that 100%. That seems, this is pretty important. So if I heard you correctly, you were saying if the agreement doesn't reference any lien language in that contract or agreement, the contractor won't have the rights to put a lien on that property and get paid?
Correct. I mean, they still have rights to get paid under the contract cause of action, but it takes away that security interest, right?
Okay. So let's take it the next step. There is lien language in the agreement or contract that's signed. Remodeler works on a kitchen remodel. Homeowner decides for one reason or another they're not going to pay. How long should a contractor wait until they take and exercise their right to put a lien against the property?
Not very long. So you got the preliminary notice that's required within the 20 days. Within the 20 days of starting working, or it's if you're contracted directly with the owner, it's in your contract, right? And then you must file your lien within 60 days of the time you finish work.
Within 60 days is the window. Okay. Yep. Okay. And then what happens after that, after the lien is filed? And where do you file a lien?
You file the lien in the county where the property is located. And if you go to Subcontractor Institute, I have the rules for all 50 states, and it kind of outlines specifically what's required for California there. And then the lien is good for 90 days. Within that 90-day period, you need to file suit to enforce the lien. So basically you need to start litigation. Otherwise it expires.
Okay.
So they don't last very long. It's I think the longest I've seen out of all the states I've studied is like 3 or 4 years, that liens don't tend to last that long. And that's saying if you start the litigation process, that saves your timeline to get through the litigation, and it saves the lien. It doesn't expire, but you have to file suit within that point.
Okay.
So it is a great remedy, but it comes with a lot of rules. Right.
And I may be wrong. Again, this is your area of expertise, but I thought the lien was, if say a contractor works on my home, does a remodel, I decide not to pay, they put a lien on my home. They don't, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but they don't get paid. Or if I sell my home because there's a lien against it, they're entitled to money when my property sells. Is that kind of how that structure works?
Okay, so under California law, a lien expires 90 to 120 days, depending on the exact situation.
Right.
But the lien is still filed of record, right? And it still shows up, right? And so what happens is when you go to sell a property, a title company pulls up that lien.
Right.
Pulls up that lien. And the title company can't just rely on what the law is. They want a release, or they want a court order saying the lien is invalid. You see what I'm saying? So either we're going to have to pay the contractor to get a release, or we're going to have to file suit to get the lien removed. So yes, under the law, it's expired. But when it happens, when we're in a situation like that, especially if it's a small lien, the owner would just pay to get rid of it so they can go move forward with the sale, because litigation about removing a lien will take entirely too long.
Okay.
So yes, it does technically expire, but in order to sell a property, a title company is going to want a release or a court order, which is the long part.
So the goal essentially is to come to a resolution before it gets to the point where there's a title search, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Because,
yeah.
So I mean, legally that's what the law is, but practically that's how it works, right?
Okay.
If you know what I'm saying?
A title in our ideal world, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks. That's great to know. Anything else we should cover in terms of collections and liens? Anything else that's important or relevant for California contractors?
I mean, I think especially in California, you got to be ready on the front end. Especially, it's got to be in your contractor. You got to send this preliminary notice. So you really need to talk to somebody who's familiar with liens, so you make sure that you have that consistent strategy before it becomes an issue, right?
Sure.
Most of the times, my clients come into my office and they're like, "I'm broke. I don't know why," and then they bring their open invoice report, and I realize that they haven't gotten paid. And money is like oxygen to a business.
Right.
So
we all need it, right?
Exactly. You need to breathe. And so you got to get paid for the work that you do.
Yeah. So I think one of the key takeaways here is kind of going back to one of the previous videos we did on, the components that need to be into a contract, and a good contract, and the importance and value of having how I get paid, when I get paid, and the lien language that should be included, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks again for these little tidbits, nuggets of info. Carolyn, if folks want to get a hold of your firm, what's the best way for them to do that?
Reach out to me at thecrumieslawfirm.com, or, our phone number is 713-715-7334.
Perfect. Well, thanks again. Appreciate all the time, and enjoy the rest of the week. Thanks, Carolyn.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. All right, bye-bye.